Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel, Cooking for the Family. I'm Dyvonne, and today I'm going to share with y'all how my mom made her dressing. My mother's dressing recipe is timeless, and it is my pleasure to share with all of you. These are the ingredients that we are going to be using. I also will have a list of ingredients in the description box below, but what I always say, it's not just having the list of ingredients, but how you put them together that makes all the difference. Are you ready? Let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is get started on our turkey stock. This is something that my mom always did, was she made a really nice and rich savory turkey stock, and we're going to be making this in the oven. You're going to need 3 celery ribs. Now the celery ribs that I have are kind of small, and so I ended up using 6, but you're going to need 3 to 6 celery ribs, but we're going to be slicing our celery ribs in half. I go in and I take off the end pieces that we don't need, and then we just want the nice meat of the celery rib. Now we're also going to be using a yellow onion. Now if you don't have a yellow onion, you can also use a white onion as well. You want to have a large or a medium size yellow or white onion. And then we're going to just cut this in half, and then I'm going to cut it in half again. So we're going to have it in fourths, and we're going to leave it whole just like this. You don't need to dice it in small pieces. We're going to kind of just leave it in chunks, and then we'll break those chunks up. Next, you're going to need a nice big casserole dish that's going to be able to fit 8 cups of water. Now for our seasoning, we're using some Lawry seasoning salt. Now I have a very large turkey wing, and with your stock you do want to use a turkey wing. This is the other seasoning I'm using. It's called Nature's Seasoning Blend, and it's basically garlic, pepper, onion that's in the blend. And we're also going to be using some regular salt, and if you don't have regular salt, you can also use kosher salt as well. Now with the very large turkey wing, now if you don't have a large turkey wing, you can use 2 turkey wings, will also work nicely. And I always have one hand that I'm working with my meat and one hand that I'm touching my spices with. And also, if you don't have the Nature's blend seasoning that I'm using with the blue top right there, if you just have at least the Lawry seasoning salt, pepper, and you have some salt, you can use those 3 seasonings, will also work just fine. Now once we've seasoned both sides of our turkey wing, then we're going to go on and you want to pull apart your chunks of your onion. We're going to add those to our casserole dish. Then we're going to add those whole pieces of the celery rib that we went on, and we just went on and sliced those in half. Now while I'm doing this, I have my oven preheating on 375 degrees. I'm going to go on and give my hands a quick wash, and then I'm going to fill my casserole dish with 8 cups of water, and our turkey wings will bake for an hour and a half to 2 hours, or until they are nice and tender. Now if you are new to my channel, welcome in, and if you're a returner, welcome back. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, I invite you to hit that subscribe button, and don't miss out on my upcoming series, 12 Days of Cookies and Holiday Treats, where I release a new video every day for 12 days leading up to Christmas. Our turkey wing is ready for the oven. We're going to let our turkey wing go on and do its thing. We're going to come back and check on it in about 45 minutes. So it's been about 45 minutes now, y'all, and this is what our turkey wing is looking like so far. And so once it's been about 45 minutes or so, what I do is I check on it, and we're going to go on and flip it over. We've got some nice browning coming onto the wing, and you see how the wing is kind of like sticking up right there. I'm just going to use my kitchen shears and go on and take care of that, because we want all the pieces to be right down in there inside of that wonderful stock that we are building. So now it's been about an hour and 40 minutes total. Let's see how our turkey wing is doing, and it should have some browning on it, and it should also be nice and tender. And you see that stock that has been made in our pan from putting it in the oven and doing it like that. The stock is going to be so rich with all that wonderful flavor, and it is looking good. And you see how the meat starts to pull away from the bone. That's how you know also that your turkey wing is ready, and the meat is nice and tender, y'all. And this wonderful stock that we have made in this casserole dish, y'all, there is definitely shortcuts, but let me tell you, Mom did not do any shortcuts when it came to making her dressing. Now we're going to set this aside, let it cool off a bit, and we're going to start making our cornbread. Now the cornbread that we're using is a specific cornbread that my mom would make just to make her dressing. So in my bowl, I've put 1 cup of all-purpose unbleached flour, and to that we're going to add 1 cup of cornmeal, And we're using white cornmeal. My mom always used white cornmeal. However, if you prefer yellow cornmeal, you can use that instead. And to that, we're also going to be adding 1 tablespoon of baking powder. And we're also going to add a half a teaspoon of regular table salt. Now, once you have all your dry ingredients in your bowl, you want to go on and use either a wire whisk or a fork. Whisk everything together really well. And now I'm going to use a smaller bowl and we're going to put our wet ingredients. So in our smaller bowl, we're going to be putting in 2 large eggs. And you want to have your eggs at room temperature. Room temperature eggs are going to blend so much better anytime that you're making batters or mixes that require eggs. You definitely want to use some room temperature eggs. You want to whisk your eggs till they're nice and frothy. Then we're going to go on and add in some oil. I'm using 1/3 cup of regular vegetable oil. We're going to go on and whisk together our oil and our egg together as well. Make sure those two are well incorporated. Now while I'm doing this, our oven is on 375. And we're going to be baking our cornbread in a cast iron skillet. Now, if you don't have a cast iron skillet like this, and this is a 9-inch cast iron skillet, you can also use a regular baking pan. In my cast iron skillet, I put 1 tablespoon of oil, and then I'm going to put that in the oven to let it become nice and hot, and it's going to create a wonderful crust that's going to be on our cornbread. That crust is going to add to our dressing when we make it into our bowl. Now I've put in 1 1/4 cups of milk. You can use whole milk or either you can use 2% milk. Either one of those will do just fine. And now we're going to take our wet ingredients and we're going to add it to the bowl of our dry ingredients. Now in the description box below, I will have the recipe for my mom's cornbread that she uses when she makes her dressing. And this cornbread, we don't add any sugar to the cornbread because we don't want to have a sweet cornbread, because that sweetness will then carry through to the dressing and your dressing will tend to be a little bit on the sweet side. Also, this cornbread is a little bit drier than the one that my mom would normally make if we were going to have it with greens or black-eyed peas, or we're going to have soul food or Thanksgiving dinner or Christmas dinner. In the description box below, I'll put a link to my video on my mom's nice moist cornbread. This one is drier and it's going to work perfect when we make our dressing. So our skillet is nice and hot, and then we go on and we pour the batter that we have into our hot skillet, and you want to see those little bubbles whether you are using a cast iron skillet like I'm using, or either you're using a pan. And our cornbread is going to bake for 30 to 35 minutes or until it's nice and golden brown on top. Now we're going to prepare our celery and our onion, and this is the size that you want to have your celery, about the size of, say, like a dime. We're also going to cut and prepare our onion the same size. And this is the other half of the onion that we use to make our turkey stock that's going to go into our dressing. So once I have my celery and onion all cut up, we're going to go in and saute them till they're nice and soft. So in my skillet, I put 2 tablespoons of butter, and you can use either salted or unsalted butter. Either one is fine. And we are going to have our onions and celery saute on a medium to low heat, because we want to be mindful not to brown our celery or our onions. We want them nice and soft. They're going to become translucent, and that should take about 5 to 7 minutes for our veggies to become nice and soft. Our celery and onion are ready. I'm going to go on and take our cornbread out of the oven. We are going to start putting together our dressing. This is what you want your celery and onion to look like. It smells so good in the kitchen, y'all. I have my 13 by 9 pan that I've buttered. We're going to put that aside, and then I'm going to use my very, very large bowl, because in the bowl we're going to be mixing everything up. So first, what you want to do is we're going to take our cornbread, and our cornbread is fresh out the oven, and so you put your cornbread in, and then you want to use a big spoon like I'm using, and we're going to break up our cornbread just like this. You want your cornbread to be in small crumbly pieces, but no piece larger than, say, about a quarter, about the size of a quarter, no larger than that. And so just really work with your cornbread and your spoon to get your cornbread nice and crumbly. Now once you have broken down your cornbread and your cornbread's pretty crumbly, then what we're going to do next is we're going to go ahead and add in 1 box of the cornbread stuffing. Make sure that you get the box that says cornbread. And now we do what Mama did, and we go from the bottom to the top when mixing your bowl. She always said go from the bottom to the top, and then you also want to rotate your bowl while you're doing this. If you run into any of the chunks, any big chunks of the cornbread that we made, just go in and smash those and break those down. Now we're going to add in the celery and onion that we sauteed in our pan. Also, when you're adding in your celery and onion, be sure to add any butter that's in your pan as well. That is all going to add to the flavor of our dressing. Now after we have our celery and our onion, go on and mix that together because we want to distribute that celery and the onion before we start adding our spices and our liquid. Now if you're enjoying this video so far, don't forget to show it some love and give it a thumbs up. I'm going to grab our turkey stock because we're going to add that to our dressing. When adding our turkey stock, we don't add it all in at once. We're going to just ladle in several ladles at a time. And if you get some of the onion that's from the cooking of the turkey wings, that's okay. A little bit of the onion from the stock is perfectly fine, but you don't need to add any of the celery that's in our casserole dish. Continue to mix from bottom to top, and then also continue to break down and smash any of the big chunks of the cornbread that you happen to run across. Make sure that you're moistening the dry and the wet cornbread and stuffing together, so that way we want to create a nice cohesive mix, and that is going to be our wonderful dressing that we're going to be baking off into our casserole pan. Now we haven't put any seasoning in yet, and the reason why is because the stock is full of wonderful flavor. And so before we add any seasoning in, we want to put in the majority of our stock, and we want our dressing to, it's going to go from filling really easy to mix, and then it's going to get a little thicker in the bowl. And because you have the cornbread is absorbing the liquid, you have those pieces of stuffing that are absorbing the liquid, it starts to come together. And you see when I use the back of the spoon and I kind of like press down, you see how it's starting to become very cohesive, and that's what you want to be looking for. Now we've almost used the majority of our stock. I'm going to put a few more ladles of our stock into our bowl, and then we're going to give it another mix, and then we're going to taste it for seasoning. And this is something Mom always did, taste her dressing before adding any seasoning to it at all. Let's see how it's tasting. Time to add some sage. So the sage here, we're using some rub sage. You can use either rub sage or ground sage, and the sage and the seasoning is going to be to your taste, but my mom always emphasized making sure to put enough sage in the dressing because the sage helps to bring out that flavor and that richness of the stock from the turkey. And so after I've put the sage in, and that was about a tablespoon of sage that I put in, then I put in about a half of a teaspoon of salt, and then I'm also going to sprinkle in a little bit of pepper. Now don't worry y'all, because in the description box below I will have how much sage, salt, and pepper that I use in the dressing, so that way you can use it as a guide to bring it to your taste. Now once our dressing is looking like this, and when you scoop it up it holds together, you know that your dressing is ready to be put in your casserole dish. Now before we put our dressing in our casserole dish, we're going to taste it one more time for seasoning to see if we need to add any additional sage or salt or pepper. We need to add a little bit more sage to really finish building that flavor and bringing it out. And then I'm also going to be adding a little bit more of the salt as well, about another half of a teaspoon. Now your dressing is totally ready and ready to go in the pan, but a little extra step that my mom would do is the turkey wing that we use to make the stock. She would take pieces from the turkey wing and then she would just cut that into her dressing. Now you can use anywhere from 1 cup up to 2 cups of just cut pieces of the turkey wing, and I just go on and cut it right over the bowl just like my mom did. Now once we have our turkey pieces cut in there, and those size, you don't want to make them too big, just kind of like bite size, because they're going to get mixed into the dressing as well. Next, go on and put the dressing into the 13x9 buttered pan. And when you put your dressing in your pan, you want to make sure that you smooth it out and even it out, so that way it's even all throughout the pan. You want to make sure that you also put it all in the corners as well. Also, something that's important is that when you're evening out your dressing, you want to be mindful that you want to smooth it out, but you don't want to press. We're not trying to compact it, we're just kind of trying to smooth off the top. I'm going to cover our dressing with some foil. We're going to bake it at 375 for 30 minutes covered in foil. So now our dressing has been in the oven at 375 for 30 minutes covered in foil. Now we're going to take the foil off of our pan, and now we're going to go on and bake it for an additional 15 minutes uncovered. And during that last 15 minutes baking time uncovered, our dressing is going to get that nice crust on top. So our dressing is all done. It is out of the oven. It is looking good. It is smelling so good. I have my homemade cranberry sauce right here. In the description box below, I'll put the recipe for the simple homemade cranberry sauce. But it is time for us to give my mom's dressing a try. And I've got to put a little bit of this homemade cranberry sauce on my plate as well. So this is what our plate is looking like. Let me go on and get y'all bite ready, because on this channel we share, and so that bite right there, that is for you. Go ahead and take your bite. Okay, I'm going to take my bite and see how we did. Wow, this is so good. And the cranberries, the homemade cranberry sauce. But y'all know what? I made some homemade gravy. So I'm going to put some gravy on our dressing. And this is the homemade gravy. And I'll have the information for my homemade gravy linked down below as well. So let's go on and try our dressing with the gravy on it. Oh my. Let's see how our dressing is with the gravy. Yes, ma'am. Oh my goodness. We did it, y'all. Well, I thank you for spending time with me today in my kitchen. Happy Thanksgiving and happy holidays to you and your family. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, I invite you to hit that subscribe button. It's free. If you like this video and appreciate the content, don't forget to show it some love, give it a thumbs up, and click share, and share this video with a friend or family. And don't forget to click that notification bell so you can come back and visit me again in my kitchen. And don't forget to look for my 12 days of cookies and holiday treats starting in mid-December. And remember, it's always good when Dyvonne is cooking for the family. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye, everybody.